So our first guest on Redefine Violence is Aaron Mesa, former Customs and Border Protection K9 handler, owner of Grind Ops Coffee, and USPSA competitive shooter. Aaron, thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
So when people think of a sport, they traditionally think of either basketball, cricket. I heard pickleball is kind of making a comeback, but they don't really think of competitive shooting as kind of a sport. Would you agree?
I would disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah, it definitely is a sport. It takes a lot of, not only the mental aspect of it, but it's also really good. You have to be mentally and physically prepared for what you're doing out here. There's a lot of safety issues that you have to take into consideration. And the eye-hand coordination, all these things are very, very crucial.
Right. So you take all the elements of a traditional sport and you combine it, and you're just using a weapon to actually facilitate the sport. Gotcha. Right. And when did you first start shooting?
Competitively or?
Just in general. When was the first time you ever picked up a weapon?
I would say probably in mid-2000s.
Yeah?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
When did you start shooting?
I think it was a Glock.
A Glock?
Yeah, yeah, my buddy lent me his Glock.
Just out of nowhere? Was that before your career?
That was before my career. Okay. That is correct, yeah. You know, it's always when you're young, I was, I don't know, 18, 19. You're like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. Yeah. You know, my buddy has a gun. Obviously didn't have any real experience with anything. And then I got into a career in law enforcement, and that's when I was really introduced. And I would say I kind of fell in love with that aspect of it. Right. Was the shooting part. And then slowly kind of became a gun nut of sorts. And then I was actually introduced by a buddy of mine to USPSA shooting. Okay. And he's like, hey man, you like guns, right? Yeah. And you like shooting. You want to come to a match? And I was like, I mean, I don't really consider myself a competitive guy, but sure, I mean, I'm down to try. Yeah. And that's really how I got introduced to it. And believe it or not, my first match was terrible. Really? Yeah, I realized how bad I was. I think and it was a big sanctioned match to top it off. I think there was like 70 or 80 shooters. I was like number 70. Yeah, it was bad.
It was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did, you know, I used that as fuel to learn what my mistakes were and continue on. So
you started with just recreational, and then you moved into, it became a work requirement for you, right?
That's also true. Every quarter we do a qualify. You have to qualify with your weapon. And I was always kind of, I became a marksman shooter there for our agency, which was pretty cool because I don't remember what the requirements were to become that, but I still have the pin at home somewhere. So you took it from a work requirement and it grew into like a passion. A passion. When did you realize like, hey, this is something that I'm not just going to be doing on the weekends. I'm actually going to be, you know, balls deep in. When it became a form of therapy for me. And explain that to me. Yeah, it was, you know, you go through a lot of stress in life. You see a lot of terrible things at work. And, you know, you're always on. You're always, you know, when I started going to matches, slowly I noticed that it was like a flip of a switch that I would come out here and everything else kind of disappeared in the background. Yeah. Because my focus was now on this, on shooting, on whatever, safety issues, more importantly. And then when I would leave, it was when I would feel like, that was interesting. I hadn't thought of whatever was going on. You look at your phone, text messages, and you're like, I hadn't thought about this for a few hours. You know, and that's really when it became like a form of therapy for me. Not necessarily, you know, you want to be competitive out here. You want to be good. And then you see your friends doing good as well. So you're like, no, I need to step up my game. Yeah. That's really how that developed. It wasn't like this thing where I said, this is what I want to do. Right. You know, it became a thing throughout, you know, several months or whatever you want to call it. So I'm hearing you talk about it in the sense, in a therapeutic sense, in a sports sense, but in reality, you know, most people see a weapon and they get, you know, kind of squeamish and they think, oh, he's using a gun for sport. I mean, what are some of the stigmas that you would like people to know when it comes to utilizing a weapon, not only for self-defense, but for something, you know, like you mentioned, a therapeutic purpose? Well, the thing is, people don't understand, and there is a stigma behind it. I would just say, come out here. Come out with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Right.
Don't just come out here with, like what I did was, I came out with somebody, I had no idea what he was doing either, you know? But come out here with somebody that knows what they're doing, get a full understanding of what a weapon can be used for, and more importantly, your self-defense purposes.
Yeah.
I think we saw one of the active shooters, the guy that took him out was a USPSA shooter, I believe.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's something that I bet he never prepared for, but it prepared him for that certain scenario, you know. So I think that's always something cool to take out of.
So in a law enforcement world, yeah, it would benefit any shooter, you know, that utilizes it for work to become a competitive shooter so they can hone those skills a little bit better.
Perfect.
Bring that to their workplace.
Yeah, you become faster. You become more of a thinker instead of just, you know, getting tunnel vision when things are happening so fast around you. Yeah. Because in a law enforcement world, things can go south really quick.
Yeah.
And this helps you really kind of open up your vision to not have that tunnel vision and see the whole story, the whole situation, and if you need to pull the trigger, you're competent enough to do it.
Yeah, so instead of just thinking of it as, hey, I've got qual in 6 months.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like start training for my static line shooting.
Right.
Where you just go from the 10 to the 15 and the 25.
Correct.
It brings it all together.
Yeah, here there's a lot of movement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I see a lot of guys now on lines, and I kind of laugh sometimes because, you know, I'll make sure your stance is correct, which is, yes, all these things are super beneficial to learn. But at the same time, it's like, if you find yourself in a defensive situation where, you know, you might not be on 1 foot, you know, you might be on a knee, you might be doing all this crazy stuff, or hiding behind cover, you know, and so that's kind of why I was like, well, I mean, I like static lines. Yeah. You know, they're important for teaching certain things, but at the same time, if you take it beyond that, you're just improving yourself for the real world.
So that's on the LE side. So for a normal civilian, I mean, how would you be able to explain the type of confidence that you've gained through not just handling a weapon, but knowing your capabilities as a person with a weapon?
Being a responsible American. Yeah. That's ultimately, that's really what it boils down to. Being a good, responsible American. If you want to be, if you have a family, you know, if you want to be that prepared for your family, if something goes down, if something happens, you want to be that person that your family can rely on. Yeah. You know, I think that's a huge, important aspect of it. The last thing you want to do is be useless. Yeah, you know? Be useless at all. Yeah. And not have any skills or abilities to do anything. Do anything as something as simple as put a tourniquet on. Yeah, exactly. This doesn't even have to go down to shooting. You know, this could be just any kind of self-defense situation. But yeah, if you're talking about the gun aspect of it, I mean, it prepares you, it gives you the confidence to say, I got this, I can take care of this situation, you know, I can diffuse this situation somehow or another. And that's one of the stigmas that we'll run into as a show, as a company, which we'll explain more about later, is, oh, you're using guns. Now, in our world, in Texas, guns are a way of life, but it's not like that in the entirety of the country. Correct. And it varies state to state and different laws and different restrictions and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's beneficial for people to at least be open to the idea of seeing a gun as a tool versus something that's scary and you don't really want to be involved with and you don't want to touch and hold. You know, luckily I haven't really run into that. Nobody's ever told me anything about that. At least I haven't run into that. That's because we live in Texas. Yeah, you know, but at the same time, if you're just open to the idea, if you just stop listening to the media for 5 seconds and telling you that guns are the worst thing to ever happen. It's just like anything. If somebody wants to create chaos in your life, I can grab a pencil, you know, and do some damage. John Wick. You know. But you don't hear the media telling you that, or else you would be like, oh, pencils are terrible. Yeah. You know. Evil finds a way in this world, right? You know, with a weapon or without one. Exactly. But at the same time, you can do good with that same weapon.
Yeah, and I think when people try to say, well, oh, violence is bad, we should stay away from it at all costs. That's, to me, burying your head in the sand and not realizing, hey, violence is going to exist whether you like it or not.
Well, I don't know the quote correctly.
Yeah.
But I know Jordan Peterson, something like this, was. It's better, to be a violent man that can show restraint.
Man. Yeah. That is capable of harnessing violence.
Correct. Yeah. Versus.
We'll quote it properly.
Yeah. I'm not trying to, but that's always in the back of my mind is I can be a violent person.
Right.
But I have it in check.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is being a good husband. Because I need to protect my family.
Right.
Stuff like that. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason for doing this is exposing everyone out there to the types of people, getting to know the face behind the word violence, and all, eventually we'll be interviewing a variety of different artists or violent artists, as I call them, and giving you guys a platform to explain what it is that you actually do and think of when you train in these violent arts. And, how you ultimately end up a better person. I know it's strange for some people to understand that, but you become a kinder person. You become more respectful towards life in general and realizing this is nothing that I never want to use this gun on somebody.
Correct.
But
that's
I can't.
The biggest aspect
and I'm
of
good
it.
at it.
Yeah. It's I think Travis Haley said this, be a thinker before a shooter. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't have been so true. I mean, the way he said it is, yeah, you have a weapon.
Right.
Yes, I'm capable of using it.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm also smart enough to either walk away from a situation or, know how to use your violent tendencies in a different way where, I see it a lot in road rage. Like, is that really necessary? Just drive off, man. That just because you have a gun on you doesn't mean you need to use it. I think that's where we get the stigma of guns, that as people like that and not being able to use their head in that type of situation.
So I know personally for me, and without going into specific stories, I've referenced you as the guy. Like, hey, you need some work, you need some tweak with shooting pistol or rifle, go to Aaron. In your life, have you kind of become that leader for your community around you, like your immediate family? Have you had people reach out to you and say, hey, Aaron, can you take me out?
I have, yes, I have. I wouldn't use the word leader behind it, but I definitely somebody that can reach out to me and say, hey, can you help me? Can you? Yeah, for sure. And if I can't help you, I'll find somebody that will.
Right.
I don't know everything. I have been exposed to it. I've done a lot of trainings with different companies and people, but at the same time, it's, all these things that you learn is for information you put in your pocket.
Yeah.
And you can reach back. Sometimes it might not work for me, but it might work for you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the best part of it is when somebody reaches out, I kind of go in with an open mind.
Right.
Okay, let me see your form. Let me see what you're doing. Let me see. Not necessarily, I'm never going to say what you're doing wrong.
Right.
Right, because I know I do a lot of things probably unorthodox to some way other people do it, but it works for me, but somebody else might call it wrong. But at the end of the day, I always kind of go with an open mind of saying, all right, how can I help you?
But I think there's an important acceptance that people like you have to have where, even if you don't see yourself as a leader, in your own small world, in your own immediate community, you are that person that others know where it might not be this year or next, but they have that in their mind where if they ever want to have an introduction into this world or into shooting, they can go to you. And that's so important because as we go and we interview different people, I want, the person we're interviewing to realize that you're the pillar in your immediate community that can inspire others, coach others, and introduce others into a world where they better themselves, they know how to protect themselves better.
Right.
They're more confident.
Yeah, for sure.
And they become a better person.
Yeah. I think that's, if people see me that way, I hope that it's mainly because of the confidence that they see in the people.
Yeah.
That, okay, this guy's confident around this.
Right.
Not only shooting, but maybe, like you say, jiu-jitsu, these guys, I know these guys, they walk around, they have a look.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I got you, bro.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
Or other, disciplines.
Yeah, well, it'd be the same thing as knowing how to play the violin. You know, if I know somebody in my life that knows how to play the violin, man, if I ever wanted to learn, I know where to go.
Yeah, I know where, at least I know they're going to point me in the right direction.
Exactly, exactly.
Sure.
And what kind of community have you been able to build outside of your immediate one through shooting? Like, have you become friends?
Oh, yeah.
Have you?
That's the other good thing about competition shooting or competitive shooting, whatever, USPSA. One of my best friends, Mario, I became friends with him because of I met him at a match.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's there to help each other out. You got a couple guys that are a little more competitive, and they're kind of more, I wouldn't say jerks or anything, but they're more standoffish because they're in the zone.
Right.
You know, they're there to compete and they're there to win. Whereas a lot of us, we're there to compete as well. We're also there to, if we could win, hell yeah, you know, why not? But at the same time, we're also there to build that same community, and we're trying to always invite other people that wouldn't have otherwise shown up.
Yeah.
You know, hey man, just show up.
Just show up.
Just show up. I don't have gear. Just show up.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get you squared away once you're here. And I've actually met some other people, same thing. You know, hey, you want to go to? Oh, I like shooting or whatever. Go to a match, man.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm not really competitive. Like, it's not there to compete.
Right.
You're there to compete against yourself.
Right.
You want to be better at what you're doing. That's the way I see it, you know? And I do take it hard when I do something dumb, or not dumb, but it doesn't go my way.
Yeah.
You know, like mental fart or whatever. And I do take it hard. I kind of walk away. It's like, all right, but next stage, you know, just fix it.
Well, with all of it, man, and creating that community and being able to, you know, get another benefit off of what you're doing with training is huge. And that's something that I want to expose people to as well. It's not just the immediate training that you experience, it's everything else that comes with it. You know, it's the friends, it's the barbecues, it's the, hey man, will you be my kid's godfather? Little things like that just branch off of all of this violent art that we train in.
Yeah, and so actually my really good friend, Will, we were friends from work. We became even better friends by competing together.
Right.
It just, you know, it developed a stronger bond, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
It's funny because now we've gotten to a point where, like, I just look at him and I know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and you know, we were good friends before that, but definitely improved the friendship there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've met a lot. And the other cool thing about it, I don't mean to deviate, there's so many people from different backgrounds in competitive shooting. You know, you got guys that are nurses, you got guys that are people that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise met.
Right.
You know, but you meet them out here, and all of a sudden you're like, man, these are such cool people. You know, not because, you know, they don't have to be in law enforcement, or they don't have to be in this certain, you know, demographic of people, but it's been really, really interesting, and I love it, and that's what keeps me coming back.
Exposure. You know, exposure to more cultures, more people, more different types of that you otherwise would have probably never met, and, you know, but with that being said is, if you can have like a mental picture in your mind of all the types of people that you shoot with, what I want people to understand is there are capable people that walk amongst us.
Yes.
And you would never know.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter their stature, it doesn't matter their size, it doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, but they can come out here and do these amazing things.
And that's what I meant about the demographics and all these people that come out here, their backgrounds. You would never think that so-and-so person is capable of such violence, you know, or such, I'm calling it violence, but we're talking about good shooting. You know, but at the end of the day, like, you know, they're very capable of doing it.
Right.
You know, but if you see them out in the world, you would never think so.
But each one of those people, you know, they have their own community, immediate community that they foster.
Yes,
and
correct.
They help and, you know, help protect and then help promote this kind of, so that's what I feel we need more of throughout the country, just to start with, and then we'll take it around the world.
Well, I think it's gotten better.
Yeah.
I think slowly, surely, it's gotten better. I think the more exposure, the more it spreads out. I know I've gotten people to come out here, friends of mine, that are, they're in the law enforcement world, but they don't really care about really shooting too much or whatever. But you bring them out here and they're like, oh, this is actually really fun.
Right.
You know, we'll keep people coming back too. And that's kind of the other thing. That's the other thing that we try to always have is a good environment for people to shoot. Like, we see a new shooter, standing by himself.
Like,
yeah, and you know, I've been there. Hey, brother, come over here.
Yeah,
come over here. Just
come over here.
Yeah, just come over here. Well, it's not a taking under your wing. It's none of that. It's just make him feel comfortable.
Because it is intimidating. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to go, you know, purchase a gun.
Yeah.
And you've got to walk into the store, especially if you've never done anything like this before. So it is intimidating. For sure. You know, but if people can get over that, that's a small little stepping stone to a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
Then showing up, it's a little bit more confidence.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And your first match, you might suck. But you got a little bit more. And then you meet people like you and take it a step further. And before you know it, now you have a really good community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we, at least here, I know we're very good about, what's the word? I don't want to say make fun of, like somebody that's possibly not as good.
Right.
We have good banter back and forth between, you know, friends, but it's not, you know, personal or anything like that. But I've seen in other sports, hey, come back when you get better. Yeah. You know, we don't have that. Like, yeah. Right. And for us, it's not like that. It's like, no, come back. Come back. Come back.
Come back so you can get better.
So you can get better.
You're not going to get better unless you come back.
Right. Yeah. And that's probably the biggest thing that I think that here, I can speak, I want to say nationally. Right. But, you know, from my exposure here, I can say that's definitely the type of environment that we try to create. For new guys or anybody that wants to come out here.
Yeah, and then, so you've now left the law enforcement world. You left it behind. You retired, right?
Yes.
And you have started Grind Ops Coffee Company. Tell me how this started.
Honestly, there was no plan. Yeah. There was no real. People would ask me, "What's your business plan?" Yeah. I don't even know what that is. I can't pull out a, you know,
9-point plan and be like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to make this many sales and go here. So you just started just making coffee.
It just started by roasting. I was roasting for myself. And I think it was Mario. I can't remember who it was. Like, hey man, can you make me a small bag? Like, this is actually really good. And I think I gave it to him like in a Ziploc bag. Like it was, you know, no real packaging behind it because it was just meant for myself. And then little by little, it's just like somebody else would ask me. Yeah. Somebody else would ask me. And somebody finally said like, hey man, you should sell this. By the way, when I retired, I didn't retire to do this. Right. It was, it just happened that's how it worked out. Right. I had already started it while I was still at work.
Okay, while you're still in the LEO.
Yeah, correct. That's where there's a misunderstanding. People say, oh, okay, so you retired to do this.
I got
you. No, I didn't. That's just how it happened.
Just a byproduct. Yeah, right. You were already doing it.
Yeah, and it's just, okay, well, at least I can do this kind of full time. Yeah. You know, if I'm not going to be at work. And that's really how it happened. Somebody said jokingly, hey man, you should sell this. I was like, well, like, I was happy where I was at, being a K9 handler, doing fun stuff. I was happy being a grunt, you know? Yeah. So I didn't see this as a business opportunity. Yeah. And it just kind of developed into one. And yeah, people have asked me like, how come it's around guns? You know what? I'm retired. It's around things I like. Right. You know, I don't know anything else other than what to tell you about that. Yeah. There was no business plan behind it. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of subliminal stuff in my packaging, the way I develop a lot of the labels. There's a lot of personal stuff in there that if people just look at it, they'll see certain things. Yeah. Even in the shirts, like on all the designs, there's always
shot in the ace and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. There's always a little detail there that resembles either something that I did in my life or me personally. Yeah. Stuff that I enjoy.
And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it here because I've heard you mention before it was Mario in the Ziploc bag. Yeah. But it's that community that you built off of competitive shooting where you don't know, and I'm not giving all the credit to him and taking any away from you, but you don't know if you would have had that idea if it wasn't for the community.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I wouldn't have thought of that as an idea.
Or it might have came later on, you know, it might have taken a little bit longer. But now you've got a community, you've got a business plan without a plan. And you mold those two together, boom. You got Grind Ops.
You have
and now
something.
You've got, I don't know how many storefronts, I don't know how many products, you know. Yeah, it's a crazy amount.
It's been good to us. Yeah. I've been very happy and fortunate and blessed, you know, more importantly, that it's been going well. People have received it well. It sells well. It's, you know, we're about to change up the packaging as well.
Okay.
I didn't bring it because I didn't want to. It's one of those yet. Like
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. But I'll get you one once it comes out. Yeah.
So the name of the show is Redefine Violence. Tell me in your words, whenever you hear that phrase, what it means to you and kind of how we touched on it a little bit, but how you've taken the time to redefine it throughout your life.
I think for me, it was creating myself as a person capable of violence, but always having that restraint.
Okay.
And I always had it. I always knew it. When you see evil in the world, in law enforcement world, I know you've seen your fair share of it. Yeah. You have to be able to be capable of having such violence as what you see.
Right.
But it's knowing how to use it.
Right.
You know, obviously, I'm not gonna do some of the stuff that they do. Right. Let's just go there. You have a moral compass, you know, that keeps you in check.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's for me was that when I first met you.
Yeah.
What was it, maybe 2 years ago or whatever, that's when I was like, I had never looked at it that way, but it was definitely what it defined, the definition was for me.
Right.
Yeah, I know you have your model, your company model and logo, that the sheep's or the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
And while I did see that, like I recognized that, to me was that Redefine Violence was like, how does it apply to me?
Right.
You know, I want to represent his brand. How does it represent me? And that's how to me, that's how people have asked me when I wear your shirts, you know, I go to the gym, whatever, and people, what does that mean? Or what is that? And I tell them, like, this is what I see of it. They have their own definition of it, but this is the way I feel about it.
Right. And that's what we've been able to do with the company as a whole is experience different definitions with people, whether it's a power lifter, whether it's an archer, a competitive shooter, a hunter. And it didn't start that way. It just started with our thing and our motto, you know, we see it as capable amongst the oblivious, right? The wolf in sheep's clothing. And then it just turned into all these things and the door opened and I thought, oh man.
There's a bigger world out here.
There's a bigger world out here.
For sure.
So yeah, and that's the whole point of the show is to expose people to people like you so they can see, you know, it's not a...
Well, I was very fortunate. I was fortunate enough to meet you.
Yeah.
I think we were both starting up around the same time.
We were, yeah. I was actually overseas and you sent me some coffee.
That's right, something like that, yeah.
You shipped to APOs.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I was fortunate enough to kind of meet you, and you're obviously an awesome dude that I've gotten to meet along the way, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be a part of your community. You know, yeah.
Well, tell us your Instagram handle, tell us your website, tell us where we can find you, where we can purchase some of this awesome coffee. I've said it before, and not just plugging his stuff. Everything else kind of sucks. This is actually really good coffee. It makes you actually want to drink more than you should. So tell us where we can find you.
Okay, so the website is www.grindopscoffeeco.com, all together. Our Instagram is, I believe, or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. GrindOps_Coffee Co. And Facebook is just GrindOps Coffee Co. All together, I believe it is. Yeah. Facebook has always thrown me off. I don't know how to use it. Yeah, so I say it's dumb, but
well, we got to use it. And for the millennials out there that don't know what www is, in the early stages it was World Wide Web.
Correct.
The website.
Right.
So I know there's going to be some people out there.
What are you talking about?
www.
We don't have TikTok.
Okay. You got to get it.
Really?
Yeah, you got to get it. I know you don't want to.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to.
I don't do dances, dog.
It's fine. Yeah, I know you don't want to. Well, actually, it might be a little hard for you because of the whole, your brand relies heavily on shooting.
You're right.
When we throw shooting videos up there, we get tamped down.
Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. And we're starting to get that every once in a while. On Instagram, we do get a little bit.
Shadow ban. Thanks a lot, Meta. Thanks a lot, Zuck.
But every once in a while, one slips through the crack, you know? So it's like, all right, cool.
But you've got another avenue there where you can focus on the coffee.
Correct. Yes, correct.
And people love that stuff. Right. They want to see it. they want to see more of you. You know,
I don't know why.
well, and I'll give her a shout out, 3-Gun Kenzie, if you watch this. Thank you. She gave me some great advice. She's a competitive shooter as well.
Okay.
I was on her podcast. She said, look, what you're doing with the brand is great, not having you as the face.
Right.
But people sometimes want to be invested in it. And if they get to know someone like you who's actually genuine and has a good story to tell, a good product to put forward, and you know can articulate what their dreams and goals are, you put all that together, it's only going to be more success for your company.
You know, kudos to her. I've heard something similar to that along the lines, and I thought about doing something where we could put out some more information about, you know, my personal experiences, my background.
Yeah.
Maybe give people more of an insight into
how or why. You know, how or why it started.
Yeah, correct. We have a little bit of a about us kind of page, you know, on our website. But, you know, it doesn't give the full depth of everything, my experiences.
And it doesn't have to be fully centralized on you where you become your own thing. But, you know, little things like this, we start talking to people, you know.
Yeah, well,
Morning Joe with Aaron.
Morning Joe, that's a good one, actually.
Joe with Aaron. Yeah. Where you interview competitive shooters.
Yeah, or somebody else.
Something else.
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll consider it. Yeah, because that's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. This is the first episode of Redefine Violence. We will be traveling around Texas and then around the country and around the world, interviewing violent artists, people who work in violent professions that protect you and I, and survivors of violent circumstances. We can't thank you enough for watching. If you stuck around, and we'll see you around next time.